Imagine a world turned upside down. Imagine a world turned upside down. Imagine a world turned upside down. This was Egypt in the 17th century BC. The proud land of the pharaohs was fractured. For over 100 years, foreign rulers known as the Hyksos had dominated the north. They held the fertile Nile Delta, the lifeblood of the kingdom. These rulers brought new technologies like the horse chariot, but their presence was a constant insult to Egyptian pride. In the south, Theban princes clung to their traditions. They paid tribute to the Hyksos, but dreamed of a unified kingdom under one pharaoh. It was a time of tension, a slow-burning fire waiting for a spark. This spark was a family, a Theban royal house that refused defeat. The struggle began with Ahmose's grandfather, Seqenenre-Tao. He openly defied the Hyksos king, Apepi. The conflict was brutal and personal. Ancient stories tell of bitter words ending in war. Seqenenre-Tao died violently, his mummy bearing horrific wounds of an axe dagger. The fight passed to his son Ahmose. He won victories, then fell. The dream seemed to die. As Ahmose came of age, he was ready to finish what his family had started. No longer a boy protected by his mother, he was a warrior king. Around the 11th year of his reign, he launched his great campaign. He marshaled his armies, equipped with the very weapons the Hyksos had introduced. He had learned from his enemies. His soldiers marched north from Thebes, their target, the Hyksos capital, of Heiress. This was not just a battle, it was an exorcism. Ahmose aimed to purge Egypt's sacred soil of foreign occupiers. The siege of Heiress was long and difficult, a fortress city protected by the marshlands of the delta. The fighting was fierce, a clash of wills deciding Egypt's fate for centuries. We know the details thanks to a soldier, Ahmose, son of Abana. He was a marine who served in the king's navy, carving his life story on his tomb walls. Young and untested, joining the wild bull, fighting on the waters, capturing an enemy, earning the gold of valor. The victories of Ahmose were not his alone. They were built on foundations laid by incredible women. The story begins with his grandmother, Tetesheri. She was not of royal birth, but earned the title Mother of the Mother and Mother of the Father of the King. She anchored the royal house in its darkest days. Ahmose loved her deeply. He built a pyramid at Abydos, and a chapel beside it, vowing to honor her memory. She was the root from which this dynasty grew. If Tetesheri was the root, Ahotep was the trunk. When Ahmose was a boy, she ruled as regent, far more than a placeholder. Inscriptions praise her for rallying troops, caring for her soldiers, and crushing rebellion. She pacified Upper Egypt and expelled rebels. Her tomb held magnificent treasures, ceremonial weapons and daggers, and the gold of valor flies. This was a warrior queen, Ahmose's wife and sister, Ahmose Nefertari. Ahmose raised her to unprecedented power, bestowing the title God's Wife of Amun, High Priestess of Thebes. In Egyptian succession, bloodline was everything, often through the female line. The right to the throne was legitimized by marrying the great royal heiress. She was the vessel of divinity, descended from the first rulers. By marrying his sister, Ahmose bound himself to that divine line. Creating God's Wife of Amun was political genius, tying royal women to the rising national god. The god's wife ensured fertility and cosmic continuation. The role passed from mother to daughter, a female spiritual lineage. Two parallel lines of power emerged, king and heiress priestess. The pharaoh, the commander-in-chief, head of government. The queen, great royal heiress, God's wife, controlling vast estates and conferring divine legitimacy. This balance was unique in the ancient world. Royal women were essential pillars of the state. Their health, their fertility, their piety, sustaining Ma'at, the cosmic order. It helps explain rulers like Hatshepsut, who later ruled as a full pharaoh. The legacy of Ahmose is the New Kingdom, an era of wealth, power, expansion. Golden pharaohs like Tutankhamun and Ramesses the Great, forged by a family, not a lone king. Tetesheri, Ahotep, Ahmose, Nefertari. They held the line, governed, and endowed the sacred economy. The Ahmose revolution proved empire was built by the sword of a king, and the wisdom, courage, and divine authority of its queens.